Why the need for so much gruesome, graphic violence? Why not let us imagine
Because it's so much fun, Jan. Get it?
Of all the Sankranti and Pongal releases, the film that I was most excited for was the Arun Matheswaran directed film Captain Miller, starring Dhanush in the title role. A film set during the rule of the British Empire, the film focuses on Isa, played by Dhanush, who joins the British Army and is faced with the uncomfortable circumstances of killing his own people. The dilemma that sets in on his purpose and the catalyst that makes him a bandit for some, but a messiah for others, forms the basic premise of Captain Miller. How this figure comes in direct conflict with the British imperialist forces sets up to become a treat for the big screen, a feast for action fans, and has interestingly generated polarizing reactions. Some people considering the movie to be uncomfortably gory, while others having reveled in the madness. I definitely fall in the latter category. Getting to the film and its qualities, here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the film so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch Captain Miller in theaters or not. The underwhelming aspects. Same cycle of British characters. The problem that Indian cinema is undergoing when focusing on a chapter of history that compels you to cast British or foreign actors is that the casting almost cycles around the same set of actors that we have seen for years in commercial projects across languages. There is a familiarity with the faces, and these actors can only surprise you so much. In moments, I could just see reiterations of what they have already done in previous films. Barring Edward Sonnenblick, who you may remember from RRR, the other generals and leaders just don't pack the punch as intimidating antagonists. I mean, I just could not get out of my head that the mayor's son, who I should fear, was the same guy who abandoned the child in Mimi. We definitely need the recruitment process of foreign actors to go beyond the core 4 or 5 actors that keep on rotating for any roles designated for the East India Company. Personal dynamic and emotional arc. One of the biggest criticisms, and this is something that I do agree with, is that there is an absence of a personal stake or emotional resonance that audience should feel with Isa's personal dynamic. I will argue against those who are saying that Dhanush and Shivarajkumar's relationship is not fleshed out enough, because it is the circumstances that compel both the characters to have a formal distance with each other. Shivarajkumar plays a freedom fighter who spends most of his time away from home, so the relationship itself is of characters who sporadically meet. So I totally understood why the relationship builds over time. The dynamic is something that you understand is not of siblings who grew up in close proximity with one another. But the argument that I do support regarding the film is that Dhanush's relationship with his mother and especially his village folk should have been a core component of the film. We spend most of the time with Dhanush away from his home. His arc of being burdened by guilt and projecting it by killing the imperialists is in seclusion, and the personal connection when those he was closest to are in danger isn't felt because there are not enough sequences to reference why Dhanush finds his own people like family. I wish we got more of Dhanush with his mother and the village folk, as the crescendo, which is the final 30 minutes of the film, would have had a far greater impact as Dhanush transitions from a runaway to their lease of a new and respectable life, much like what Dhanush was in Karnan. The good. Cinematography and art direction. The film is a feast for the eyes. A big screen experience that I witnessed on IMAX, and I think a lot of what DOP Siddharth Nooni and art director Ta Ramalingam successfully executed has to do with most of the film being shot in real locations. There are several drone shots of vehicles incoming and explosions galore that immediately make you feel as if you're witnessing as an onlooker from on top of a hill. There are several frames that are to marvel at. Dhanush with the backdrop of the temple that he protects, that is the birthright of his people, as carnage is abundantly evident in each corner, immediately generated goosebumps for me. This sequence of 700 British soldiers running towards Dhanush and his stature almost mockingly urging them gave me goosebumps. I think this is one of the reasons why I have a soft corner for a film like Lal Kaptan 2, a film dismissed by many, but the level of effort and detailing that is present in each frame, especially in capturing the action in real locations, is something that is so rare in films today. The guerrilla warfare and the ambush scenes both in the interval block as well as the exhilarating climax really made this film such a spectacle for me. It may be gruesome, it may be gory, but it's so much fun, Jan. The world and pitch. You know, I was thinking about the concept of the film and how if one brings up the concept of setting up a movie during the time of British rule, many producers will scoff at the thought because it's so broad from a historical perspective. But what makes Captain Miller so special is that India under British rule is nothing but a smokescreen to tell an individual's transition from the system to become a rebel, and more importantly, to tell a story of a tribe who fights for what is essentially their birthright, something that was snatched away from them for hundreds of years. So while historically broad, you can focus on a section of people, flesh out their motive, and create a real spectacle for the big screen. That is what Captain Miller successfully does. It made me empathize for Isa's people who live in close proximity to a temple that their ancestors built but have no access to. This unjust behavior builds through the running minutes of the film, and I genuinely felt the poetry and symbolism that does become the core theme of it in the latter half of the film. It more than makes up for the supposed emotional distance the audience may have initially felt. The rawness and supporting cast. What I love about the film and the excessive action that people complain about is that his films are exceptional technically but are emotionally distant. Arun, I believe, is undergoing the Zack Snyder complex with filmmaking and criticism, where the audience is split right in the middle regarding his films, some finding them extraordinary and some finding them extremely underwhelming, especially from a screenplay point of view. I have loved films like Rocky and Sani Kaidam because I marvel at Arun's form and conviction. Captain Miller over a period of time takes the shape of becoming a straight up first-person shooter video game with each character styled specifically, with having a designated weapon and villains having specific physical traits, all denoting personalities customized just before you end up playing a game like Red Dead Redemption. I love that the movie strays away from conformity. The romantic angle is never overbearing. Priyanka Mohan as Velmati has her own personal motivations. The task at hand is far more superior, so we don't have time for romance. Sandeep Kishan is a great surprise. John Cocken is manic as ever, in several scenes reminding me of the incompetent son from Gangs of Wasipur. I was waiting for a scene where the father would actually tell him, "Tumse na ho paega." I was most impressed by Nivedita Satish. So petite in frame, but filling up the screen with rage while wielding a gun. She really killed it in this film. A scene she shares with Dhanush where she questions him doubting her ability is such a standout. And what a streak it has been for Shivarajkumar. He is really becoming the king of effective cameos or supporting roles. I won't lie, I cheered the loudest in this frame. Dhanush. I can't tell you what a spectacular performance Dhanush has executed in Captain Miller. This is a man who is so lean in structure but has the ability to fill up the screen with his presence. The close-up shots of his eyes filled with regret of the choices he has made will make anyone break down. The use of close-ups just to capture Dhanush's ability to communicate with his eyes, Arun knew what he was tapping into, to make people understand that Isa may be a man of a few words, but he is feeling every moment of anguish and loss. Seeing Dhanush in the action, wielding the pitchfork or axe or gargantuan ammunition made Captain Miller such an exhilarating and effective experience for me. I know this film has generated polarizing reactions because of the emotional distance many are complaining about, but I really did feel so engaged in its storytelling. I definitely think it deserves a chance this weekend, for its frames and the scale at which it has been executed are the most effective on the big screen. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Captain Miller. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.